explain a little bit about what numerology is all about.
What needs to be clarified is that I am actually not a numerologist. What I am actually first and foremost is a research scientist. That has always been my training. My father was a mathematician. As a child, he took me through many extensive exercises around critical thinking, developing the ability to look for deeper meanings within numbers, especially patterns. And I think that is probably my greatest gift, is to be able to work with series of numbers that identify patterns. Numerology, which basically uses only numbers, provided me with a strategic tool which really allowed me to dig very deep into the human design. So much so that Suzanne and I, over the last 2 or 3 years, have been writing extensively about what is called an individual's intelligent mathematical blueprint, which I can now absolutely qualify and quantify. And it is, if I may say so, way beyond standard numerology. The work that we are doing is actually looking at the human design, especially from the concept of what I call human futurology. Now, this is a brand new scientific discipline. We view ourselves as futurists, strategic futurists, but working in the human dimension, not in the dimension of IT. We are actually a grand organized design. All the great minds have always said that mathematics is the language of the universe. So if we are an expression of the universe, which we absolutely are, then why would we not have a mathematical design?
Hi there, Elevated Planet community. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet with Mr. Chris Stiles from 365PinCode. Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
Hello, John. Lovely to be back. Thank you so much to you and Jalay and your wonderful platform for giving us another opportunity to share some of the work we're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, not only did I enjoy the last conversation we had, but I know there were a lot of others who had a lot of really good things to say about the points you were making. And it's interesting because, you know, like to get off to a flying start, one of the things you were talking about last time was 2022, because obviously 22 was one of the key themes for last time, and that brought us to 2022 as well. And the upheaval and the expectations of the challenges that were due to emerge during the course of this year. And that was only a month or so ago. And already we're starting to shape up to see a lot of problems out there in the world with, you know, Ukraine and Russia, and how the other forces that are out there actually handle that, and where this could lead to, obviously, which looks, there's a lot of brinkmanship going on there at the moment. How is this playing out relative to how you see things, Chris? What are the numbers telling us right now?
Well, John, it's a very interesting question that you ask there, because it immediately brings global leaders into play in terms of what, as you said, what's happening with America, with the UK, with the Ukraine, with Russia, and other countries that have already started to make their presence felt around this, like Canada, Germany, France. So there's no doubt that there's a lot going on at the moment. And once again, if we just pause this movie of 2022 and we take a big step back and we analyze the construct of the number, we've got 3 2s and 1 0. Now, I did discuss this at length in the previous video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just to refresh everybody's memory, the number 2 is the energy that deals with cooperation, collaboration, peace, harmony, diplomacy, etc., etc., etc. So it's a beautiful, beautiful energy, if you will. The feminine energy, the essence of femininity. But in 2022, we've got the number 2 represented 3 times, which, if you will, is an overabundance. And then we've got the 0 in it, which amplifies or exacerbates the characteristic of the 2. So unlike a year, like let's say, for example, 1975, where you've got a 1, a 9, a 7, and a 5, 4 different numbers which are kind of working with and through each other. In 2022, there are only 2 numbers, one in a massive abundance, the number 2, which basically has an underpinning, if you will, of emotion, and the 0, which exacerbates everything. So this is why the astrologers and numerologists and sages who have written their 2022 predictions saying that this is going to be a great year, it's going to be a wonderful year, a year of healing, year of cooperation, if I can call it warm, fluffy, cuddly stuff, teddy bears. I don't buy that at all. In fact, to me, that dog's not going to hunt. I think that what we're dealing is exactly the opposite. Because we're dealing with so many twos, we're dealing with an overabundance of emotion. In other words, all logic flies out of the window. And on the back of this, everything that the number 2 stands for, cooperation, collaboration, peace, harmony, diplomacy, etc., is not going to be functioning in a positive way, but rather it's going to completely disintegrate.
Right.
With that said, 2022, 3 2s and a 0, you add those numbers together, you get the number 6. So 2022 is a number 6 universal year. And what these authors of the spiritual material have said is that it's the year when it brings family, relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart, community, loyalty, all of these things into frame and in a good way. That's where I disagree. I vehemently disagree with it. It's going to bring all the things that the numerology number 6 stands for, but it's going to bring it into play in a really, really dark way. So what we're dealing with in 2022 from the perspective of the number 6, which is the universal year that 22 represents, is, if you will, the emotional fallout around what number 6 stands for: relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart, sense of community, loyalty. So that immediately is giving you a very, very clear understanding of what 2020 has as per its numerical construct.
Right.
That's what it's most likely going to deliver. And well, John, a month ago when we chatted, compared to now, look at what has happened. Look at the changes that have happened on the global landscape. Look at the fact that the UK has just implemented sanctions against Russia. Look at the fact that the Russians have invaded the Ukraine. Look at what is going on. Look at the war of words, if you will, that is taking place primarily at the stage between Biden, Putin, and Johnson. So to answer your question, everything about 2022 is, I believe, teeing itself up around a year of massive emotional upheaval, outpouring, and even outbursts, all of which are themed around what the number 6 stands for, which is relationships, responsibility, community, loyalty, matters of the heart, etc., etc. So is it going to be an easy year? Is it going to be a wonderful year like the others believe it is going to be in terms of their predictions? I don't believe it is. It's going to be a year fraught with terrible, terrible challenges.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in very much with my non-numerology approach, which is, having gone through various alternative sources as well. And 2022 through to 2024, in particular, are going to be tumultuous years, with a lot of grief energy out there, with people having to reset the way they look at life. And I don't know what that looks like exactly. We'll have to see how that plays out. But certainly the way you describe it fits perfectly in line. And I am endlessly fascinated with the research you do, Chris, because I know just how incredibly effective it was when we were looking at the business side of things, looking at Elevated Planet, as well as looking at, from my personal perspective and from Jole's personal perspective. This stuff is powerful. And it does boggle the mind to think that everything comes down to numbers. But, to that same extent, like we looked at Jole and I working as a team, and, that works out really well, providing our life paths and this, that really coordinates very nicely for us. But if you were kind of looking at that and you were saying, okay, well, we've got Vladimir and Joe, and we've got Vladimir, Joe, and everybody else that's going to be part of this drama as well. How does that measure up from a numerology perspective when you look at it from your applied mathematical blueprints? How do those personalities fit with each other?
Well, John, very interesting question. And to answer it, I have actually taken a very interesting piece of work live on the website, 365PinCode.com. So anybody wanting to access what you and I are talking about tonight, they just need to go into Google and type in 365 pin code 2022 numerology predictions, and a link will come up. And what we're talking about, numbers, detail, is inside of that link. But let's just take a big step back, John. So 2022, number 6, universal energy, relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart, etc., etc. Think about yesterday, the Palindrome, the 22nd of February, 2022. All the twos, all the zeros, etc. A lot of people have contacted me and said to me that very interesting things happened in their life yesterday. Either an aha moment or a conversation or something which basically revealed something very significant to them on an emotional level about something that they needed to understand, either in terms of a relationship or family or responsibility or matters of the heart. These are people who are switched on, they're awake, so they're open to this kind of stuff. And a lot of people have said to me, I personally had an extraordinarily interesting day with a very massive revelation happening in my world, which was incredibly important around family, and has in every way shaped how I will, think about and handle the rest of this year around that specific topic or subject. So personally, I experienced this enormous emotional awareness on the Palindrome day, especially around what the number 6 stands for. So John, on a personal level, John and Chris, we're going to be thinking about the number 6. It's going to be knocking on our door. It's going to be knocking on our door in terms of you and our partners. Whether so let's say 2 people, right? It's going to be knocking on the door in terms of teams, executive teams, work teams, anywhere where people are having to work together in peace and harmony. This number 6 energy is going to be knocking on the door, asking questions of them, because that's exactly what it does. It is asking questions of all of us, individually and as a collective, around relationships, responsibility, community, loyalty, matters of the heart, etc., all the very important things that the number 6 stands for. So when it comes to relationships, husband and wife, lovers, whatever it might be, no doubt those relationships are going to have questions asked of them. Business partners, because that's just what the number 6 does.
Right.
And it's in full cry this year, in full cry. I mean, this is literally like, if you will, one of those enormous wave sites like Pipeline or Jaws or Nazare, where you get these enormous waves that these surfers go and 70, 80, 90-foot waves. That's exactly what this year is about. It's these giant waves, emotional waves washing through our lives and asking questions of us in terms of everything that the number 6 stands for, theme-wise. So you might find, I'm going to have problems with myself, how I feel about myself, my relationship with myself, problems with my marriage partner, my business partner, etc. Where the relationship is good, well, there shouldn't be major problems. But where there are problems that have been very conveniently ignored,
right,
those problems are going to come under the spotlight this year. Nobody is going to be able to avoid them.
Interesting.
So this is why I say there is no doubt that this is the year of extreme emotional upheaval on a personal level, on a professional level, in our internal environment, which is me, and our external environment, which is we.
Yes. Yes.
And to come back to the question that you asked about the politicians, well, let's pause for a moment and think about the three big guns that you alluded to a short while ago: Putin, Biden, and Johnson. Right? So,
Yeah.
before I go there, what I want to explain is the power of the numerology number 9. Where 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 numbers combine and they give or provide a number 9, it means that that construct of all the numbers of all those people that were locked together has the opportunity or the potential for healing, but it also has the potential for extreme conflict. Because the number 9 energy, as we know in numerology, working from the number 1 through to the number 9, on the number line, 1 being beginning, 9 being endings, and then master numbers 11, 22, and 33. But if we work with the number 9, what does the number 9 represent? It represents the end, it represents closure, it represents completion. So when you put energies together that add up to 9, what you've got is literally the effect of holding up a mirror. So John, let's say, for example, you are born in the month of June.
Right.
And I am born in the month of March. So yours is a 6 and mine is a 3, right? And we are business partners. And things have been okay between us, but not great. And neither of us have wanted to have the difficult conversations, et cetera, et cetera. So we very conveniently turned blind eyes and swept stuff under carpets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This year, by virtue of the power surge of the 2s and the fact that it's themed around relationships, responsibility, matters of the heart, are you with me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that's not just lovers. I mean, that means partners, et cetera, personal and professional. That's just going to cause everything that's under the carpet is just going to pop. The lid is going to be blown off this volcano, because it's going to force people to face what they don't want to face.
Right.
So now let's take another big step back. So therefore the number 9 carries within it extreme volatility, because I hold up a mirror to you, you hold up a mirror to me. Remember, because you're born in June and I'm born in March, right? As business partners, 6 and 3 is 9. So therefore we're holding up mirrors to each other. But to date, those mirrors have made us so uncomfortable that we'd rather look away from the mirror. This year, we're forced to look into the mirror. So now, this is where it gets interesting, John. Kind of, hold on to your hat. Vladimir Putin, Russia, the leader, born on the 7th of October, 1952. He has a number 7 life path, the most powerful number in his intelligent mathematical construct, life path, 7.
Right.
Joe Biden, born on the 20th of November, 1942, has a 2 life path. So you put America under Biden and you put Russia under Putin, and you put those 2 together, you've got Russia and America through their leaders eyeing each other, holding up mirrors. Putin is holding up a mirror to Biden about things that he hates or dislikes about himself, and et cetera, and the same Biden to Putin. Therefore, you have a highly volatile situation. Now, for good measure, let's bring in the Union Jack. Boris Johnson is born on the 19th of June, 1964. You do the necessary life path calculation, and if your audience don't know how to do this, all they do is they go into Google and they type in 365PinCode, numerology calculator, and a link will come up and they can put the necessary information there and work out what their own sequences are. Boris Johnson's got a number 9 life path, John.
Wow.
So if it's not bad enough that you've got Putin and Biden snarling at each other because of their 9, You now add old Boris Johnson in, and boom, you haven't diffused the situation, you've exacerbated it.
Right.
So now we've got these three global leaders, which on a life path level share this collective number 9. And when it is being operated with from its positive side, it deals with healing. When it's being operated with from its negative side, it deals with deceit, lies, manipulation. Your audience can come to whatever conclusions they want to. But now that they're aware of the fact that when you put the core numbers of Biden, Putin, and Johnson together, you get a highly volatile cocktail driven by the number 9, do you think that he's giving you a green light, or do you think that's giving you a red light? I personally think it's a red light. This is why I believe that we are really facing very, very dark times this year. But let's take it one step further, John. And in that article that I mentioned that we published to 365PinCode called 2022 Numerology Forecast and Predictions, I listed 9 countries, but I also, let's focus on the first 7. The first 7 are Russia, which is Putin, the US, which is Biden, the UK, which is Johnson, China, which is Jinping, the Ukraine, which is where it's all starting, which is Zelensky, Germany, which is Olaf Scholz, France, which is Emmanuel Macron, and Canada, which is Justin Trudeau. Now, we take all of those leaders and we wrap their life paths together collectively through this new discipline that we have developed at PinCode called co-joint numerology, which is there to understand the energy that exists between groups of people and will it work or won't it work. CEOs, ding, 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 ding. Guess what? When we take all of those people and we add them together, collectively they come to a 9. Putin, Biden, Johnson, Jinping, Zelensky, Scholz, Macron, and Trudeau. 9.
Wow.
So you put those, and literally those are the world leaders right now who are very, very actively engaged and vociferous around what's happening in the Ukraine. And when you put them, if you had to put them into a room, that number 9 is saying blood's going to flow. If I could put it like that, but obviously that is an image that I am portraying.
Yes.
It is not a happy chemistry, not a happy chemistry at all. And this is why I truly believe that when we look at the construct of 2022, then the fact that it's influenced by the number 6, and then we look at the world leaders and we take those names that I mentioned and they've got a collective 9, I think we're in big trouble. I think we're in a lot of trouble this year. And it's not a message that people want to hear. It's a very, very uncomfortable message, very uncomfortable. But the thing is, John, if we look at the way things are going, and we have to talk about a universal design. So this year, if things were to go bang, and bang in a really big way, it is because the construct, or if you will, the universal architecture is enabling it.
Right. Yes.
It's almost like all the 2s and the 0 and the 6s and all the global leaders that are locked together and the 9 between them. It's almost like if there is a perfect storm, then this is the perfect storm being presented fertile opportunity in which to manifest.